otherwise we're going to run out of
Yeah.
time.
Let's do
Okay.
that.
All right, perfect. So welcome everyone to this part 2 of Marketing and Branding in a Crisis with Neil Fletcher. My name is William Nashugav. I am the director of Launchbase. And Launchbase, as you probably know, is the part of UConstruct that's dedicated fully to supporting entrepreneurs and business owners. We do a number of things all year round, providing pathfinding services, which is a business service that is available to any UConner. You don't need to be a member of UConstruct. It is available to all UConners, either in person or over the phone or email. And this is a free service. The second thing that we do is we run a startup bootcamp twice a year, supporting entrepreneurs validate their business ideas. If you want to learn more about these services, uconstruct.com/launchbase is where you'll find more information. We're also the chapter for Startup Canada. So we're Startup Whitehorse, or run Startup Whitehorse every year for the past couple of years. The other two things that we do is Launch and Learns and Entrepreneur Speaker Series. Launch and Learns, in this case, this is one of those Launch and Learns that we're running for the next few weeks. Is going to be very much dedicated to dealing with COVID-19 and what to do to work on the unforeseen challenges of COVID-19 and come out of this crisis stronger. So this is the part 2. I hope hopefully many of you were here during part 1. This is going to be a bit of a continuation here with Neil Fletcher, who is the founder and principal of Cassier Consulting, joining us from Dawson City. And very quickly, this is a webinar, so it's just slightly different from our last take of this Lunch and Learn. You can probably see, if you were here last time, there is a Q&A. That option at the bottom of the screen. You have a number of options. You probably see pull in and Q&A. So Q&A is how you can ask questions. You can ask questions using your personal name, so people know who is asking the question. You can also choose to ask your question anonymously. That's entirely up to you. Just a quick reminder that this is being recorded. So if you choose to stay anonymous, you can do so through that Q&A. And but I want to cautiously that if you want to stay anonymous, just ensure that you actually ask the question anonymously. So without further ado, thank you, Neil, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks very much, William. So thank you everybody for joining the webinar today. As William said, this is part 2 of 2 webinars. If for any reason you didn't manage to join the first webinar, don't worry. This does follow on, but it stands alone in and of itself. If you would like to look at the recording of the first webinar, you can access that on the UConstruct Facebook page. So if you didn't manage to catch it, take a look on the Facebook page there. So in this webinar today, I'm going to reflect, first of all, just very quickly on some homework questions that I set at the end of the first webinar. That's about your product and service and the problem that it solves for your customers, about brand values, and about ideas to really focus on customers and how important that is in a time of crisis such as this, and when there's going to be a recession taking place. And then I want to talk about who are your best customers. Who are they? How do you identify them? And what are some of the characteristics about them? And then I'd like to talk to you a little about customer lifetime value. So that is the entire value that a customer brings to your business during the whole lifetime, their association with you and your business. I want to talk about marketing return on investment as well. So how do you know what kind of return you're going to get? If you spend $1,000 on marketing, what kind of return should you expect? And how do you know whether you're getting value for money from what you're doing? And then finally, I'd like to just talk about the art of persuasion. So bringing everything together, looking at, you know, your product and service, the values, the brand values that you have, you know, the lifetime value of your customers, you know, your marketing return on investment. How do you persuade people to actually buy from you, sign up to your newsletter, read your blog, etc.? So that's what we're going to cover today. I'm also going to talk to you at the end a little bit about the Pivot program, which is a fantastic program from UConn University that can help you to get more expertise if you need some help with some of these kinds of issues to pivot your business during this time of crisis. As William said, please ask questions. There will be time for Q&A at the end, but if you have a burning question and you'd like to ask it during the webinar, please do. Please click on raise hand or use the Q&A function to ask your question at any time. That'd be great. So here we go. Here are the questions that I set at the end of the last webinar. So one was about describing the job your product and service does. Secondly, how will you adapt to what you do under the circumstances of the new normal as it emerges during and after this crisis? I asked you to talk about your values, your brand values, describe what they mean to you, and some examples of where you bring them to life, and some ideas for how you are going to build stronger customer relations. And I have got, I'd like to pick on, and I'm sorry to single somebody out, but John Campbell had a really interesting response to these questions. And John, I know you're online there. I wanted to ask you, John, could you just share some of the feedback that you gave on question 4, those ideas that you had about building stronger customer relations?
I'm going to enable your audio, John. You can speak now.
Thanks, William. Hi, John. Can you hear us? I think you're still on mute there.
How's that? Can you hear me?
Hello, John.
Hello.
Hello, John.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
You can hear me?
Neil,
Okay.
can you hear John?
No, I can't.
Okay, so some of you hear me, some of you don't.
I can hear you now, John. Yeah, go ahead, John. Could you just tell us just very briefly about your business and those 3 excellent ideas that you had for building stronger customer relations, please?
Okay. Well, I'm an R&D company at this point. Mostly I'm focused on communication systems and power systems, particularly in the north.
Yep.
And
yep.
So I've been looking, from the past year and a half, so long before this COVID thing happened. I was looking at the developments that were coming in terms of technology, and how they're going to affect places like the north, and the state of preparedness that we had, which in general is not going to be adequate. I mean, there are issues all around the world, and the COVID crisis has accelerated this this process. So things that were going to be an issue in the next 5 years are now coming to the forefront within a few months. So so basically, I'm having to look at how to change my focus in terms of timeline for this, and in the light of things that have been happening with this crisis. So I think that what we're going to have to be doing is looking at much more local and regionalized customer focuses. So and look at what's needed now in the like within the next year or so. So I think that the first thing is you have to understand what the needs and requirements are for the customers.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Then you have to apply your own expertise to understand what it is that they actually need. They may not know what they need in a technical sense.
Yep.
but then you have
Yep.
to be able to communicate that to them.
Yep.
And then once you do that, then you have to find a way of being able to deliver that in a way that's practical and cost effective. So I think that's what I.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, no, I really like the way that you had constructed that, because I think it talks about research. So you need to understand your customers and some of the issues that you have. It's about great communications as well, because you've got to have that relationship where you can discuss the need with the customer and come up with the right solution. And then I think, yeah, absolutely, you've got to be cost effective and you've got to be practical in the way that you deliver that solution that will really meet the customer's needs, and they will be delighted with it because it will really do the job that they need, and you've helped them to uncover a need that perhaps they weren't quite sure was there in the first place. So I thought that was excellent, John, and thank you very much for sharing that this morning. So that was just an example. As we go through today, I'd really like everyone to bear in mind, if you have your answers to your homework there in front of you, fantastic, but do jot some notes for yourself, about your product and service, the job that it does, the problem that it solves for customers, your values, and what is unique in terms of the values that you bring to your customers, and how you're going to build stronger customer relationships. And as we go through today, we're going to use some of that information in each of the different sections. Right. Okay, so I'd like to move on now to talk about who are your best customers. Now, your best customers are the ones that are most profitable. They probably are easiest to attract to your business, and they probably have the best fit with your values. And they also tend to keep coming back, so they're likely to be the most loyal customers as well. But key is that they are the most profitable. So they generate the most profit, not necessarily just revenue, but profit for your business. So I'd like to do a really quick poll now. And what I would like to ask you, so William, could you enable the first polling question, please? What I'd like to ask you is, how well do you think you know who your best customers are? Now, your answers are anonymous, so it will just amalgamate all the answers to this question. It's to give me and to give everybody an idea about how well you understand who your best customers are, those most profitable customers. And we'll just leave it open for a minute or so, and that'll give me a picture of how well everybody on this webinar today understands that, because this is quite a key thing. Okay, how are we doing for answers there, William?
We have 4 answers so far. 4.
Okay. Anybody else? Just another few seconds to complete the poll, and then
9 of 13. Just a few more.
Great. Let's anybody just else need to answer that poll? Right. Can you close it down now, please, William? And let's see what the results were. Could you share them with everybody?
Sure. Poll is closed. So really well,
Okay.
9%. Can you see it? Can you see the poll? Can you see the poll results? Which shall I going to read them out loud?
Yeah, please. I can't see them at the minute.
Okay, sure. So really well, 9%. Quite well, 45%. So-so,
Okay.
56%, and no idea,
yeah,
9%.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's I'm pleased that some of you are really familiar with who your best customers are. A lot of you clearly have a pretty good idea of who your best customers are, and some of you clearly, I think, may have to do a little bit more work to identify them a bit more closely. And that's really important, because these best customers are likely to be most aligned with your values, the best fit with your company. And that's because the problem that your product or service solves for them meets their needs most closely. And that is so important in any time, knowing who your best, most profitable customers are is important, but it's particularly important in a difficult time like this when we're facing a recession. So it's really important to pick up and form a picture of exactly who are your best customers. So part of that is doing some analysis. So I talked a moment ago about profitability. So the profit that your customers provide to you, and you might need to do a bit of financial analysis here, a bit of spreadsheet work, or part of the pivot program, you can get some financial expertise to help you with that if you need it. It's good to know how much those people actually bring to your business in terms of profit. And if you're just starting up, or you've only been trading for a few months, or only a year or so, it's harder to get that information, so you might have to do a bit of a guesstimate. But one thing you can do is to really paint a picture of those best customers, and that's really, really important. It's probably going to be 10 to 20% of your customer base are going to be your best customers, but they are likely to be producing maybe 80% of your profits, that 80-20 rule. So if you're dealing with individuals, one great thing to do is to try and form as close a picture of those customers that you can. And that can be thinking about their gender, their age, their income, their location. Are they based in the Yukon? Are they based in Alberta? Are they based in Whitehorse or Carmacks? What kind of jobs do they do? What kind of education do they have? What kind of hobbies do they have? And what's their attitude to, are they aspirational kind of people? Are they very family orientated? And obviously that will change according to the type of business you have. But the most important piece of information you really need to find out is why they buy from you. And that involves research, and that can be as John was talking about earlier, having a conversation with that customer. Obviously he's in a business to business environment, selling that type of equipment, but you can talk to customers that walk into your store. If you have a retail store, you can do a survey monkey or that kind of a online research. You can just talk to people when you meet them. You can put a little card into a product that you sell. You can have a little pop-up on your website. There's lots of ways you can do that to find out why people actually buy from you. And it's really good to try and define those customers as closely as possible, because if you're producing some marketing materials, you're writing an ad or an email, it's good to bear a certain person in mind. So you can even actually create a persona. And this is what larger organizations do this a lot. It's to create a persona. So you create a picture of a typical, in inverted commas, customer. So as an example, you might call your customer Kelly. She's in her mid-30s. She's a plumber. She really enjoys fishing. She has 2 small kids, loves spending time with friends, and is a great hockey fan. So, when you start to make that more personal, and you think about Kelly when you're doing something, then you can actually be more personable in your communications and reach out more directly to your customers as people, rather than this amorphous mass of customers. And then if you have businesses as customers, obviously that's a little different, but you should equally build up a picture of those organizations. What size are they? How many employees do they have? What kind of sector are they in? Are they in the mining sector, tourism, healthcare business? Where are they based? Who is the contact, and what is the decision-making process? And that's really important in businesses, because you may be dealing with the CEO, and she might well have decision-making authority, but you might be dealing with an HR manager or a purchasing or project manager who has to refer a decision upwards. So it's important to understand the decision-making process, and therefore you might need to have a relationship with more than one person within that organization, particularly for larger organizations. And equally important for individuals as for organizations, why do they buy from you? And research is important here. And sometimes it's easier to do research with businesses because you can call them up, you can send them surveys, and people are more used to that if you work in a business context. But that is really, really important in terms of finding out exactly why those people will buy from you. And that is a key piece of information to help you grow. So as I'm talking now, what I'd like you to do, if you have grab a pen and paper or on your iPad or your keyboard, is just start making some notes about your customer, your ideal best customer, and describe them. If they're an individual, try and give them a name and create a little persona around them. And if they're an organization, try use some of those characteristics to describe the kind of organization you're going to be dealing with. And so just jot that down. And it doesn't matter if you're struggling, you can only find a few things to write down now. It's about building that picture up over time, and maybe stuff will come to you as we're doing this webinar. And why is this so important? There are two main reasons why you need to have this clear picture of who your customers are, because it helps you to find other people or organizations who are similar to that best customer, and therefore you know where they go and what they read, what they do. So you know which websites they might visit, which journals they might read, which trade shows they might attend, which hashtags they use on social media, because you've built up a picture of this person or this organization, and that really helps you to identify others, and therefore to choose marketing channels and ways to advertise your business that will be more likely to hit more of those kinds of people. And then the second part of it is, as well as reaching out to them, it's converting them to becoming customers. So the more you know about them and the problems that they are trying to solve, and John earlier talked about, identifying the problems that his customers in power generation or communications networks are trying to solve 10, 20 years into the future. If you understand that, you can really put together a powerful proposition for that business, and it works for individuals too if you understand why they want to buy from you. And that information you can then put into the messaging that you write to people. So I'm going to talk in a moment about marketing communications, writing that messaging, but what you actually write down in your email or your ad or your social media post. And this again is really important in difficult times, in times of crisis, in a time of recession. Understanding who your best customers are, and importantly, hanging on to them and keeping them is really important. And I'm going to just talk in a moment about why that is. And so this is a concept which you may be already familiar with, and that is lifetime value, customer lifetime value. And if you have a picture now, or starting to build a picture of who your best customers are, the next thing to add to that is how much money are they going to spend with you? How much profit are they going to generate for your business from their whole lifetime association with you? And it's really important to understand that. And again, you may well be familiar with this already, but a simple way of calculating lifetime value of a customer is the profit for each sale, whether that's a website purchase or a project that they commission, times the number of sales that they will make in their entire association with you. And that creates the lifetime value. I'm going to do another quick poll now, please, William. Could you launch the second poll?
Absolutely.
I would. Thank you very much. What I'd like you to do is just answer this very quick question. I asked you before about how well you were familiar with your best customers. Now I'd like you to tell me, how well do you think you know your customers' lifetime value based on that formula that I've got on screen there? And again, we'll just run that for 30 seconds or a minute or so. How well do you know customers' lifetime value? And again, it's anonymous. It's just to give me an indication of how well you understand that. So I'll just give you a second to complete that poll. William, how are we doing for answers there?
Okay, interesting. So so pretty much everyone has responded
Yep.
already, and so the response is really well.
Yep.
Nobody. Quite
Okay.
well, 20%. So 60%, and no idea, 20%.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for doing that poll. That's interesting. So that's actually lower than understanding who your best customers are. And I suspect that this might be the case because it's something that is sometimes an unfamiliar concept. I'm just going to go through now a quick example, which is really it's very simplified to make it easy for the purposes of this webinar. So I'll just talk you through it quickly about lifetime value. So say, for example, and say this is a customer that you have a web-based business, and they come and they customers tend to purchase $100 per visit. You have a 25% profit margin, so each visit generates $25 profit, and maybe that customer comes back to you 10 times a year. So you've got 10 times 25, which is obviously $250. Now that customer might well stay with you for 5 years. So over 5 years, 5 times 250 is obviously $1,250. So what appears to be a customer that only generates $25, if you can hang on to that customer, then you're going to get $1,250 from that customer over their lifetime. So that's a really important figure to know, because it tells you how much you can afford to spend to get that customer in the first place, and what is a profitable way to do that. And it also means how much you can spend on them to keep them as a customer. So you've probably seen these loyalty schemes from supermarkets like PC Optimum, and cashback on credit cards, and this is all designed to keep us loyal to that particular brand or that particular store. Because if you can keep a customer over their lifetime, you're going to make so much more money from that customer because they'll keep coming back. And it also gives you an opportunity. For example, we've got a customer that visits 10 times a year. If you can get that customer to visit 20 times a year, suddenly you've doubled their lifetime value and doubled the profitability of your business overnight. If you can get them to spend $200 per visit, again, you're doubling it. And if you can persuade them to spend $200 per visit and visit 20 times a year, you're quadrupling, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure you get the concept. So it means you can afford to spend some money on your best customers to A, keep them, and B, to what is known, if you can upsell, you may have heard this term upselling. So it's getting people to spend, rather than $100, get them to spend $150, or get them to spend $200, and you can introduce maybe a discount on another product line that they haven't tried before. And I know in the last webinar, for those of you who've listened to the recording or were there, I said, don't drop your prices. No, absolutely. Don't discount your prices across the board. It's a race to the bottom. It will damage your profitability. But what you might want to do is offer some targeted promotions to good customers, to your best customers, and give them an incentive to try another product line on the basis that they will buy something else and increase their spend and increase their lifetime value, because you can afford to do that. Okay. Perhaps the most important reason, and I'm sure you probably know this anyway, but it is far more expensive to get a new customer than to keep an existing one. And there have been various studies, and it varies a lot according to the type of business you have, but it's at least 5 times more expensive, if not 10 or 20 times more expensive, to get a new customer than to keep an existing one. And that is really, really important. So hang on to, retain your customers, understand them, keep them loyal. and your business will really, really thrive. And again, it's so much more important to be doing that now in terms of a crisis and recession than most of the times of the year. So that leads us on to the next section, which is about marketing return on investment. So you've painted a picture of who your best customers are. You know what their lifetime value is. How much should you be spending to get that customer? And how do you know whether a marketing campaign is giving you a good return on investment? And it can be bewildering. You know, there are so many different options out there. It can feel like a real gamble doing marketing. And what you need to do is to change that from being a gamble to being a well-oiled machine that works like clockwork. And one of the ways to do that is to get a real grip on your marketing return on investment. Now, as a good rule of thumb, for any marketing campaign, you should be looking to get a 10 times return on that campaign. So if you spend $10, you want to be getting $100 back. I mean, if you get only a 5 times return, that's okay. That's okay. It's a good rule of thumb and help you gauge, because you can then see, okay, well, this ad is going to cost me $1,000, but I'm only going to get 10 customers out of it. So is it going to be worth it? No, I don't think it is. But if you negotiate with that, with the salesperson and say, hey, I'll tell you what, this ad is going to work for me, but it's only going to work for me if I spend $250 on it. Take it or leave it. And then if they say, okay, yeah, do the ad for $250, you know you've got a good chance of getting a good return. And if he won't drop it to $250, don't place the ad. So it helps to give you some real concrete foundation about what you should spend. And, you know, to give another, you know, kind of easy example, if you were to spend $1,000 on an ad, for example, and you get 100 customers out of that, then it's going to cost you $10 to acquire each of those customers. So, you know, 1,000 divided by 100, that's your cost to acquire. If you, assuming this is the same business and you know that their lifetime value is $1,250, then if they're only costing you $10 to acquire, you're getting 125 times return on their lifetime value. And that's a great return, but it assumes that you hang on to those customers for their entire lifetime. And if you upsell them, that will go up. And obviously for that kind of a customer, you could afford to spend a bit more to acquire them. I mean, you want to keep your cost to acquire per customer as low as possible, because that really influences the profitability of your business. The other thing that's important, and I touched on this before, is about extending the lifetime. You know, loyalty, little bonuses, little special offers, little extras, little gifts. Retaining those customers is so important because it's very expensive to get new ones. And the more you keep in touch with customers, the more likely you are to promote that loyalty and retention. And of course, if you can get customers, your existing customers, to refer other customers to you, it's free marketing. So your cost to acquire is zero for those customers. And then also they come with an endorsement or a recommendation from a friend or a family member or another customer. And you may have seen cell phone companies do this. So you may have seen that these offers where you get, you know, if you refer a friend to a cell phone company, you get $10 airtime credit and they get $10 airtime credit. And you go, wow, well, that's a good deal. That's $20 we've got, because it's free marketing and it comes with an endorsement, and companies know that this is a really powerful way to recruit customers. So use it in your business too. And measuring and tracking your marketing return on investment is absolutely vital. You know, you've got to know these figures. You know, I could see that the figures for customer lifetime value were a little lower than people who understood their best customers. Completely understandable. But the more you understand this more closely, the more you measure it and track it, the more profitable your business will become. And it doesn't matter how you do that measuring and tracking, as long as you do it. So there are There are some fancy pieces of software out there like Salesforce. It's free, but it's more complicated, more suited to when you've got a lot of customers. You can use a spreadsheet. You can even write it in a book, but make sure you know how much you're spending on your marketing, how many customers you get from that marketing spend, and how much profit those customers are generating buying from your business. And that will mean over a period of time, you can really learn and improve your marketing performance, and you will increase your marketing return on investment if you measure and if you track that. And it will start to help you build a picture of what are the most profitable ways to market your business. And you'll probably find that you'll be getting different types and sometimes more profitable customers from certain routes than others. So social media may give you fairly good customers cheaply, but maybe they don't spend so much. And then you'll find that going to a fair or advertising in a particular publication or website gives you much better customers because they spend more and they stay longer with you. But you need to measure and track to understand that. And this is about continuous improvement rather than getting it right first time. So you will make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes in marketing. Even marketing professionals and VPs of marketing make mistakes. But over a period of time, you learn what works better, so you improve all the time. And that's the really important thing. So that's the financial side of it. The last part of the jigsaw puzzle, if you like, is who these people are because you've got this good picture, and I'm sure you've been jotting down your notes as I've been talking. You know who they are. You know why they buy from you. You know what your brand values are and how you bring them to life. So how do you pull all that together and make sure you attract these customers who are going to give you fantastic lifetime value and a great return on your marketing investment? And it's about selling the sizzle, not just the sausage. Now, what do I mean by that? So this is, you may have heard this phrase before. This is quite a famous marketing and advertising adage: sell the sizzle, not just the sausage. And this is about selling the emotional connection to what you do, not just the benefit of the product. And the more you can sell the sizzle, not the sausage, the more powerful your marketing will be, and the more customers you will get, and the better customers you will get. So for example, if we go back to our example of Kelly, who's the plumber in her mid-30s, she likes fishing and hockey and has 2 young kids, if you remember her. And how would you sell a sausage to Kelly? Well, Kelly loves fishing. So for her, it's not just a food or a meal. She's imagining herself, she's maybe sat at a lakeside under the midnight sun. She's caught some grayling and she's there and she's grilling some smokies to have with her family or her buddies by the lakeside. So it's that image of wow, it's not just a sausage, it's a whole experience. And you can obviously take that too far. But if you were to be marketing sausages and you showed a picture of Kelly likes fishing, you show a picture of a happy family by a lakeside eating sausages, you've probably seen these kinds of adverts, whatever the product is. This is why people do this. It's about selling the sizzle. So it's, and the technical term is your brand value proposition. Try not to hit the computer and make my camera wobble there. Sorry about that. It's about the brand value proposition. That's the technical term for it, the sizzle, if you like. It's wrapping up all the best things about you and your product and its relationship to your customers. And again, at any time, it's important to hit the sizzle. But now, because it's going to be harder to get people to buy because unemployment has gone up and people will be reticent to spend, it's really even more important to sell the sizzle. So how do you do that? Here's a really good rule of thumb for constructing any of your marketing communications messages. And it's very simple. And what I've done is I've broken down an imaginary advert or a flyer for a home office furniture company. And the acronym you need to remember is AIDA, A-I-D-A. And the A stands for attention. So you need to grab people's attention with a headline, like a newspaper. So if you imagine on a flyer, you might see 50% off home office furniture. So your customer goes, oh, 50% off, oh, half price. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, let's might read on. You've got to grab people's attention. And then you have to build their interest. So the I is for interest. Build their interest with some more details. So in this example, we've got half price designer office chairs, desks and storage to transform your home office. Everybody's working at home for the moment, and you might want to transform your home office. So you provoke some interest, and then you need to promote the desire to act. So
Did we lose Neil? It seems we lost Neil.
We did lose Neil. Yeah, maybe we'll give him a second to sign back on.
Yeah.
I can shoot him a message.
Okay.
It was just wrapping up. So this would be a great time if you have questions, even if we can't reconnect with Neil and bring him back to wrap up. We can definitely take those questions and bring them to him and then follow up after. If you want to send any questions and leave your contact and who's sending them, we can get Neil to follow up afterwards.
Thank you, Lana. And audio has been disabled. I think I mentioned that before, but you can use the Q&A and you can use the chat for the questions. I would rather use the Q&A while Neil is here, but because that allows for that anonymous question posting. But let's just see if Neil manages to reconnect. I think he is. Hang on. Might be here. Just check real quick. No, he's not. All right, thank you. So we have our first anonymous question, and let's just wait a minute and see if Neil manages to reconnect before the end of the webinar. And otherwise, as Lana said, we will get back to you. We'll share these questions with Neil and get back to you with an answer. Perhaps Lana, if you feel you want to answer that question, you might have something to say, or I mean,
Hey, I actually can't see the questions, I don't think.
You don't? Okay, sure. So there is a question here that says, would love to know if there are any parallels to the not-for-profit world for these ideas for marketing and branding.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I think what I would say to that is a lot of times we think that the nonprofit world is really different from the business world. So when we're taking an approach to marketing, I think there's kind of a tendency for us to think, okay, that's not quite me because my customers aren't the same, or maybe people are coming more out of like necessity or need, as opposed to they're purchasing something or they have a desire for it. But the principles are actually really, really similar. And I think that all nonprofits can really be served by taking more of, I guess I'd call it like a traditional approach or a business approach to the nonprofits, because the more you really understand, and it might be just tweaking the language too, right? So your top customers just might be the demographic of who you're serving or who you're targeting, and understanding them really, really well is going to give you that same result. So that's what I would probably recommend and challenge a little bit, is to tweak approach from, you're kind of looking at who nonprofits are also, we're also have to have a brand, have a message, and be speaking directly to people, whether it's like a customer or a client, and really, really, really deeply understanding who that kind of base core of who we're interacting with and what they need and what they're looking for, and how we can build a deeper relationship with them, really has a similar result. And it might not be profit necessarily, it might be engagement, volunteering hours. So I would say think about how you can still use this approach for a nonprofit. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but those are some of my thoughts.
That sounded great, Lana. I'm so sorry. For some reason, my internet connection went down, and I had to wait for my satellite to reboot. So I'm really sorry to leave you guys all in the lurch there.
Did you hear that question, Neil? I would love to hear your add-ons to it and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no,
so that was.
He did not. Yeah, I just want to read out the well. Can you see the questions in the Q&A?
I'm just trying to find that Q&A. I've got.
We have
no,
a
I've got
couple
nothing
questions
there.
Okay, so I can read them for you. So we have a couple questions. The first one is would love to know if there are any parallels to the not-for-profit world for these ideas for marketing and branding. And I can read the next question after.
Okay, sure. So I caught the end of what Lana was saying, which sounded fantastic. And yes, I would agree. So in the not-for-profit sector, yes, you're not talking about profit, but maybe your return is the good that you do through whatever it is that your organization does. So I guess you can measure that in different ways, depending on whether that's community impact. It might be the financial impact on your client organizations. It could be the well-being of your clients if you deal in the health social services sector. So yes, all of these principles apply, even to NGOs. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it was. So if it doesn't answer your question, if it doesn't answer the question, please answer to that question anonymously as well, and add to the question if you like. Whoever asked that question, I want to make sure that remains anonymous, right? So you don't need to use the chat, because that will not be anonymous anymore. The second question that we have in the meantime, in case the person who asked the question wants to add to that question. The second is, I am curious to know what tools, metrics you recommend for tracking ROI outside of digital, example, radio or newspaper.
Yep, absolutely. So I think, okay, and I've just seen Alex's comment about the A and AIDA, and I'll make sure I do that afterwards. Thanks for that, Alex. So the metrics would be the same, whatever kind of marketing channel you're using. So obviously it's a little different. Digital is much easier to track and to measure, of course, as long as you're measuring the right things. But essentially it is still about lifetime value and the return on investment. And if you use something like newspaper advertising or leafleting, for example, it's the key thing is to know where people heard about your business. So you can do that through different ways. You know, you've probably seen businesses that have coupons and they have a coupon code. And that coupon code says Whitehorse 2020, or it might have a name of an event on it or something like that. So that helps you. Somebody will come in with a coupon to your store or call you up or whatever it is. And you just need to find a way to track that. And you should be asking any customer who inquires, where did you hear about us? And they might say, oh, I saw you in a newspaper, or, oh, I think I got a leaflet. You don't always get a very precise answer. So it can be tricky to be very precise about some of those offline things. But also, you know, things like leaflets can be really good. It's and the thing about pamphlets and leaflets is you can actually code them very easily as long as you get somebody to bring that leaflet with them to you. So you can color code them. So that person may not remember where they got their leaflet from, but you can easily color code a stack of leaflets by, say, running a colored marker down the side of a stack, and you know that one black mark is January, and you know where you distributed those in January, and 2 black marks is for February, and 3 red marks is for a Christmas event, or, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So providing you ask customers and you have some way of tracking, the metrics remain the same. Now, I'll just go back to the final A of AIDA. And Adam, thanks for chipping in with that. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's about action, and it's about a call to action. So in any piece of marketing communications, you need to tell your customer or prospective customer what they need to do. So they need to call a number, visit a website, click a link, whatever it is, but make sure you put those contact details in there. And I had a recent example from Bombardier, you know, the big engineering company. I bought a brand new Skidoo, and in there was a lovely little card saying, tell us what you thought of the sales process and what you think of your new machine. And I had the opportunity to win $1,000, except there were no contact details on there. There was no website address, no email, no phone number, nothing. And I went on their website and actually looked for it, and I still couldn't find it. So they'd spent thousands of bucks designing and producing and distributing this thing, and there was no action. They'd missed off the call to action. So it was totally useless. So always remember that A for action. So Alex and Adam, thank you very much for that. William, next question.
I think we only had 2 questions, so that was
okay.
That was the question. I mean, that was the second question, yeah. And you answered that question again.
Yep.
That was if you have a follow-up question, you can always post a new question in the Q&A. But yeah, you may want to continue. Yeah, sorry. I'll mute myself.
Okay, so I think I finished off AIDA. The only other thing I was going to say was about the Pivot program. So you know, I'm one of the experts on the panel of Pivot experts. This is a program run by UConn University, by the innovation and entrepreneurship team there. They put together this fantastic program, which is specifically designed to help businesses pivot their business model in this time of crisis. It's totally free, and you can get from between 25 and 50 hours of consultancy on marketing, branding, sales, HR, legal, digital. All sorts of help is available to help businesses pivot. Also for some equipment costs to help businesses adapt to the COVID restrictions. So it's a fantastic program. Can't recommend it enough. Okay, are there any final questions there, William? Has anybody else got anything else they wanted to ask?
See any other questions? Any other questions? I don't see any other questions here.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we finished 2 minutes early. it just remains for me really to say, first of all, thank you to all of you for giving me your time today and for tuning into this webinar. I can only apologize about my internet connection. I'm really sorry to have left you there towards the end, so I do apologize. Thank you to everybody who submitted their homework. John, thank you very much for contributing your ideas at the beginning of the webinar. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to William and to Lana at uConstruct for this fantastic series. I know you've got a great sales guy coming up next in the series. It's been a great pleasure to do this. So thank you everybody very much indeed.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you to all of you for being here today. I also want to quickly remind you that there are 2 more Lunch and Learns coming up, one on June the 10th and June 24th, delivered by Steve Traplin. So Sales Part 1 in Sales Part 2, Sales Part 1 June the 10th, and Sales Part 2 June the 24th. To sign up for this, they are free. Go to our uConstruct Eventbrite page and register today. Thanks a lot for being here. Thank you, Neil, and wish you all a great week.
Yeah, okay, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.